Good morning. Today our resident interview is with Marilyn Williams. Marilyn was born in Minnesota but found her way to Oklahoma 35 years ago. And she's been here with us at Epworth for 7 years now. Marilyn, what brought you to Epworth?
Well, I came to Epworth. My husband was a commanding officer in the Navy, and he was sent to Oklahoma City as a commanding officer for recruiting for the Navy. So that is, and we moved here in 1978.
That's what brought you here. Do you have children that live around here?
I have 3 children. I have my 2 sons live, one in Edmond, one in Oklahoma City. My daughter lives in Galveston, Texas. She lived in Oklahoma, most of her adult life, but then semi-retired and moved to Galveston.
All right. And what career path did you pursue in your previous life?
In my early adult life, I mostly did volunteer work as a Navy wife, moving around from state to state. I did an awful lot of volunteer work, and then of course I became a parent, and so I didn't go to work until full time until I was 41. But in Virginia Beach, I became very interested in working with older adults. I was doing volunteer work as in a nursing home, and I loved that. So
this sort of became the highlight of your life then?
Yes, indeed, yes. And when we moved to Oklahoma, I was looking for a place where I could find a part-time job in gerontology, but I ended up finding a volunteer job at Oklahoma Christian Home.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you have any particular talents and hobbies or interests that particularly enthuse you?
I am very drawn to community type service. I really enjoy I've always enjoyed doing volunteer work. Even when I was working full time, I did enjoy doing volunteer work. But since my children have been grown, I've been able to do a lot more volunteer work. But as I worked in gerontology for 23 years here in Oklahoma, and then I went to work for hospice for about 7 years as a chaplain and a bereavement coordinator. I like to read. I liked to travel. Because of some physical limitations, I'm not doing as much traveling, but I've loved to travel, and of course we traveled a lot while we were in the service, but then my sister-in-law and I traveled a lot, mostly cruises from about 2006 to 2013.
And what achievement or award or acknowledgement are you most proud of in your life?
As a director of a senior center for over 16 years, that was in Edmond, then I worked very hard to get a new building built for senior adults in that area, because we were kind of cramped in a busy area downtown, and I felt like it would be nice to be in the park, because older adults in that day and age were becoming very interested in their well-being and exercise. So there was a fairly new park called Mitch Park in the north part of Edmond, and so I worked very, very hard and had some stumbling blocks with some administrative people in Edmond, but eventually we did get the senior center approved in Mitch Park, and as a result of that, I had friends who set a petition around and to get the street into that park named after me, which was approved by the City Council in 2003, and so it's Marilyn Williams Drive. And one of the councilmen said to me, you probably need to behave yourself, because mostly we award these to posthumously. And I said, well, I'll enjoy it a whole lot more living and seeing that sign, and I will behave myself.
All right, good for you. And what do you enjoy most here at Epworth?
The community, the people. I had no trouble making the decision to move, because I have been living alone for 13 years. Part of that I was working, so it was okay, but I decided I wasn't and I'd had people in my house. I boarded students from UCO for about 15 years, international students, and then my family I was raising, and then being in an empty house and not working became lonely. So I had no trouble deciding how to move to Epworth. And as a gerontologist, I knew about Epworth Villa from the time it was built. So I didn't know that I would have an opportunity to move here, but I was very grateful that I did. I just love it here, and the people are what makes it interesting, and I love hearing the stories of the people who live here, and it's just been a joy. I say to people that it wasn't but a couple of days after I moved in that I honestly, actually, physically felt the stress just flow off of me. Mm-hmm. So that was, and I didn't even know I had stress.
Well, you've had a wonderful, exciting life, a wonderful life,
Yes.
and thank you for sharing it with us.
Okay.
Tell us
well,
about your
and
book.
I do have.
Oh, yes.
I have written this book.
Uh-huh.
It's it's memoirs, and it really is. It was my children gave me a gift a couple of Mother's Day ago, and it was Storyworth, and this organization sends me a prompt every week to to which I can respond, and it's all about my life, and I might just tell you a couple of things that they have asked me about, which, because it isn't just a sequence of events from, the beginning of your life to the present time, but it'll say, what is the farthest you have traveled? What are your earliest childhood memories? How did you choose your children's names? Do you have any particular vivid memories of your grandparents? What advice would you give your great-grandchildren? What times were you happiest? That goes through this
That's
book into
wonderful.
189 pages, and it was such a joy when this got completed. And I'm working on volume 2, and I did give this book as a Christmas present to all of my children and all of my grandchildren.
So they have a record
So
of
they
your
have,
wonderful
yes,
life.
they do have this, and it's been so much fun, to write it, and and I'm continuing to do that. But yes, I certainly am proud of this.
Oh, that's great. And thanks again for joining us.
You bet, my pleasure.